And those not wearing masks, can you please sit in the far end of the bleachers? I notice some of you are not wearing masks and you're in different places in the bleachers. Can you please help us either put your mask on or sit in the far end of the bleachers? There's about 10 new voters checking in, so we'll start as soon as they come in.
Yep, she's right over there in the sweater. She brought a couple of the neighbors.
Although we're not starting with the opening session, I will say officially it's 7 o'clock from my clock and my phone, so I'm declaring this special meeting in session. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance as soon as these people come in. It shouldn't take long for 10 people to check in. Make sure you have your voting card. There's only one warrant article, but all voting on that article or any motions will be made by a show of the cards. We have 3 assistant moderators from 3 different towns that are going to count your cards. When they ask you to put your cards up, or I will, do not take them down until you're given the okay to take them down. We want to make sure we get an accurate count of all of your votes. Every vote counts. Thank you.
You need a card, you have to register.
In the gym, in the
Yeah.
Since we do have a number of things to read, including the meeting rules and a motion to make for non-voters to speak, I'm going to start this meeting, but we won't get into the warrant till we make sure everybody's out of the checklist area. So I'd ask you all now, would you please rise and join with me? Our flag is in the back of the gymnasium. Please join with me in a pledge to Old Glory. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Next, I'd like to read our meeting rules. These are the same rules we've conducted with over about 10 years. First rule, masks are required in here. Unless you're maskless, then you will sit in the back end on my left in the bleachers. When you come, please try to keep social distance at all times. Number 2, no smoking. Turn off your cell phones. Set them on vibrate. Number 3, each person will treat every other participant with courtesy and respect. 4, any voters who wish to address the meeting will approach a microphone. Try not to grab the microphone or touch it, but just approach it. We want to keep safe. Be recognized, and then state your name and address, and spell your name for our clerk. That's important. Everybody doesn't always do that, and the clerk always asks me, how do you spell that name? So make sure you give your name, address, and spell your name. Your last name is more important, most important. General comments are limited to 5 minutes maximum. 6, speakers shall remain at the microphone for any answers to their questions. 7, all questions of the school board or any other official or at this meeting is directed through me, the moderator, and I am Bob Harvey, your moderator. Each voter who desires to speak on an article will be given a chance to do so before any other voter is given a second opportunity to speak on the same issue. So everybody will get a chance to talk. Makers of motions and seconds must also state their name for the clerk, because a few years ago the law states we have to enter your name in the official record. 10, only one amendment will be allowed at the floor at any one time. No amendment to an amendment will be allowed. Such proposals will be dealt with as subsequent amendments after the First Amendment has been voted upon. This is important. Amendments must be in writing and signed by the voter with their name printed. We must keep that written amendment. So it needs to bear your name and signature. Print your name, then sign it. 11, secret ballots must be requested by 5 voters in writing, signed by the voters, verified by the clerk, and made before the vote on an article. Those 5 voters must be in the room at the time a secret ballot is requested. Challenges to any voice vote require so many voters. We're not going to have a voice vote. If you remember in February, it's kind of absurd to have you all yelling through your mask, and who can yell the most through a mask. So in February, we decided, and we're going to continue tonight, to do all the counting of votes by your card. So again, make sure you have a card. Some of them are different colors, but it's your voter card. You must have that card to vote. Reasonable discussion on both sides of a motion will be allowed before a call of the question. 2/3 vote is required for a call of the question. Those are our meeting rules, and unless I hear any objections to them, there are standard rules. They'll be adopted. I have no objections, so they are adopted. So next, before I go into reading the notice of this special meeting, and it may be your first special meeting, it's mine, and the first of a lot of us here, so very interesting to conduct it for you on your behalf. I would like to entertain a motion for non-voters to be able to speak at this meeting. Only voters with a card can speak unless the body authorizes a non-voter to speak. I believe Dr. Farah has a motion.
I would like to make a motion to authorize Attorney O'Shaughnessy, Senior Counsel, to speak at the meeting, and also Dr. Brian Hawkins, Superintendent of Schools.
We have a second by Kristen Savage. Any discussion? On this, I think we can take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Okay, so those 2 gentlemen will be able to speak at this meeting in case you have questions of them. I know Attorney O'Shaughnessy has something to say regarding the method and what kind of amendments, if any, can be made to this special warrant article. First, I'd like to read the article and the notice of the hearing, and then I will ask Attorney Shaughnessy to just say a couple of words about what kind of motions will be allowed, what kind of motions cannot be taken for legal reasons, so that we'll all be aware of that as we then move on to discuss that one warrant article. So the notice of the special meeting of the legislative body of the Timberlane School District. The Timberlane Regional School Board will hold a meeting tonight, October 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Timberlane Regional High School Gymnasium, 36 Greeno Road, Plastow, New Hampshire. This special meeting is being held pursuant to RSA 197:3 for the purpose of appropriating additional adequacy funding provided by the state. The legislative body will be presented with a single warrant article requesting an appropriation of this additional adequacy revenue. The legislative body will deliberate and vote in a single session and cannot act on any other business at this special meeting. The attested to warrant was posted and attached to this notice. The notice was legally posted and it was printed in the newspaper. Timberlane Regional School District, State of New Hampshire, 2021 special meeting warrant. To the inhabitants of the school district of the towns of Atkinson, Danville, Plastow, and Sandown, New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. Special meeting of legislative body of the Timberlane School District per RSA 197:3 You are hereby notified to meet at the Timberlane Regional High School Gymnasium, 36 Greeno Road, Plastow, New Hampshire, on Thursday, the 21st day of October, 2021 at 7 p.m. The special meeting is held pursuant to RSA 197:3 and shall consist of explanation, discussion, debate, and voting on warrant Article 1 to appropriate additional adequacy funding from the state. At this special meeting, warrant Article 1 may be amended subject to the following limitations. The legislative body may approve or disapprove the proposed increase of appropriations, but shall not approve greater reductions than that is what is in the warrant, or reduce or rescind an appropriation not specified in the warrant, or act on any other business at the meeting. The supervisor of the checklist for the member towns shall use the most recently updated checklist of registered voters for this special meeting. I'm going to read the article, our one and only article tonight, and then before we ask for motions on it, I'll ask Attorney Shaughnessy to make a very short presentation to try to explain what the actual warrant article said. I want to also advise you of this, because many of you have asked me this, emailed me, posted me, gee, where do we go after this to vote on this warrant article? There is no place to go after this to vote on this warrant article. This is not like our usual warrant where you'll go to the ballots and have a ballot vote at the town. This tonight is your vote. So when we ask for a motion and a vote, this is your time to express how you feel. It's not, I'll come back when we vote the next time at the ballot. This is what we're doing tonight. There is no second shot. This is it. Article 1, additional state adequacy funding, non-lapsing appropriation. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District vote to appropriate $991,329.94 for the purpose of buildings and grounds maintenance and improvements. Said sum available due to statutory changes resulting in an increase in state adequacy payments. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and shall not lapse until the building and grounds maintenance and improvement projects are completed, or by July 1, 2024, whichever is sooner. The school board recommends this article, majority vote required. So before I ask for the motion on this article, I'd ask Attorney O'Shaughnessy to say a couple of words explaining how we can deal with this legally and what kind of motions will be allowed on the floor after the original motion is made. Attorney O'Shaughnessy.
Thank you. The notice provides most of the details that you need to understand the process, but what I'll say is that R6 197.3A, which authorizes this meeting, is a unique statute. It only allows this kind of a special meeting when the legislature changes the adequacy funding. The process is much more efficient. It's less regulated. So because of that, you're really much more restricted in what you can do here today than what you can normally do at a special meeting on a traditional deliberative session. So specifically the language in here which says the legislative body may approve or disapprove, that language is pulling directly from the statute. So you can amend this, but you cannot increase the amount stated in the warrant article. You also cannot, and this is specifically from the statute, you're not permitted to act on any other business today. That's expressly stated in the law. We're going to be voting by show of hands, so there is no official ballot, a separate voting day. The vote is the vote, and when it's over, everyone will go home. And I think the last thing I'll explain, because I'm sure there will be a question, is that the warrant article is for a non-lapsing article, which I don't know if that's a customary kind of warrant article necessarily. In Timberlane is very common throughout New Hampshire, and what that means, to the extent you read that and you're wondering, is that if you approve the appropriation, the district has 2.5 years to spend the funds before it lapses back to offset the tax rate.
Thank you, Jim. So, in other language, once the motion to accept or approve is made, motions to lower the amount will be accepted, but you can increase the amount. I've also been advised that we can't change the subject matter of this, we can't change where the money's going, and we can't change the non-lapsing provision, or the anti-lapsing provision will not lapse. So basically, all we really can either do is approve or lower the amount and then vote on that, or disapprove everything. That's all we can do tonight on this one article. So I understand I will accept the motion to approve Article 1 as written.
Prior to doing so, just wanted to clarify for anyone who's listening, when you were reading the article, I think you stated the actual dollar amount. So I just want to clarify that. It's $991,329.94.
Okay, must be my dyslexia.
No, that's what you correct tonight, very easy, so I just want to clarify that since
Okay, thank you, Kristen. So 991,392.94 is the original amount. 991,392.94. So I understand, Dr. Farry, you have a motion to approve this as written?
I'll make the motion to approve Article 1 as written.
Thank you. And seconded by Kristen Savage. I believe Dr. Farrow will talk for a few seconds on this. Dr. Farrow?
I'm just going to speak briefly to this article. There's a presentation, but I think we have the handouts. I just wanted to make sure people understood. In terms of the use of this article, and you should have a handout, this is a draft of the capital improvement priorities that will let you know where this, we intend to use this money should this additional adequacy aid be provided. As you can see on the capital improvement priorities, without going through each of these, the majority of these are air handling units, boilers, roofing, and upgrades to our building control systems. As you'll know, most of the systems are 20-plus years old that we're looking at replacing. These are not new systems, and they are in need of replacement and/or repair. So that's why we're looking to move this forward as opposed to returning this money to the voters. In addition, we are requesting that we have till July 1, 2024 to complete and use these funds because of the supply chain problems that we see right now, where we may not be able to get the equipment and the installation done prior to the end of the fiscal year, should we accept this money. In addition, you should have a handout that explains the tax impact on a $300,000 home. I think just to make it as clear as I can in a rough number, for a $300,000 home, if the voters choose no on this article and request that this roughly $1 million comes back to the voters, a $300,000 home would see a rough decrease of $33 in their tax bill for that year. Conversely, if the voters choose to allow the district to use this money and keep it till 2024, you would see an increase of $93 on a $300,000 home. You'll see here, this is the tax impact per 1,000 and per 300,000. It's not it drops one way and it goes up the other way, because we do get funding from the state in addition to raising and appropriating, so it's not a one-to-one. The decrease is not going to be the same as the increase because of that. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Harp. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farrow. So is there anyone else wish to speak on the motion on the floor to approve the warrant article? Name and address, please.
Barbara Kishka, Plasto, K-I-S-Z-K-A. I just want to point out that while I joined the school board in order to save money and keep my taxes down, normally I would be, hey, let's get the tax money back. In this case, there's this really exciting thing going on in the Energy Committee, which is a energy savings performance contract, where we're going to be able to get a couple $1 million worth of stuff done and then have it paid for by the energy savings. So we're going to make a lot of energy improvements, including a lot of these boilers and air handlers, improve our HVAC systems, and we're going to save money not only this year, but in the years following. So overall, this is an investment in keeping our energy costs down and keeping our operating budget down over many years. So I would really hope that you vote yes for this article, and I'm very happy to see so many people here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on this article? I see a hand raised. Name and address, please, when you get to the phone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Chris True, 41 Hunt Pond, Sandown. Last name is True, opposite of false, T-R-U-E. With a name like that, I'm not going to lie to you. Two things. I know you, Mr. Moderator, you were speaking about how this meeting was noticed. I'm not sure how many voters there are in our school district, but I think there's more than a couple of hundred. I am very concerned that this meeting is called, and when I was calling around to about 15 people today, not one person knew of this meeting. So I'm sure the meeting was legally noticed, but I would think that the administration would be very concerned with this low turnout and the huge number of people who are going to find out about this meeting after the fact. That said, and I certainly hope that noticing of important meetings are addressed in a more efficient way in the future. If we do not accept, if we do not pass Article 1, does the money therefore go back as tax relief? If we do not vote to appropriate the $900,000 for the purpose of buildings, grounds, maintenance, and improvements, where does that money go?
I'll give you a thank you, Mr. True, appreciate it. I asked the same question. I was told we don't lose it. It still comes to the school and the district. So it doesn't like disappear if you don't vote to take it. It comes. The question is what happens to it. And my understanding, and we can ask Attorney O'Shaughnessy, is if it's voted down or it's zero, it just goes in the appropriations fund. It doesn't go to any particular item. Jim, do you want to speak to that question?
I actually think, Mr. True, your question, I think, is correct, that if the district doesn't appropriate the money, it can't spend the money, and DRA will use that revenue to offset taxes sometime in the next couple of weeks. So it will be used to offset taxes if it's not appropriated at today's meeting.
Thank you. And may I?
Follow up, go ahead.
I think I just lost my question. If, right, I think maybe you just answered it. If we do not vote to allow the school district to send this money for building and grounds, etc., the school can't spend it because we did not, we voted in March for what their spending budget would be. Is that?
Yes, that's essentially correct. That what you're being asked to do today is appropriate additional revenue that the state has allocated to the district. So the district is receiving that revenue regardless of what happens today. The reason, if you did nothing, if we didn't have this special meeting and the district did nothing, that money would have automatically been used by the DRA to offset taxes when it set the tax rate in the next couple of weeks. Likewise, if you don't appropriate that money today to spend this coming year or into a non-lapsing article, that money will be used to offset the tax rate. DRA will just use it as revenue to offset the tax rate in the next couple of weeks.
For our school district?
Yes, it is your money from the state.
Thank you very much.
Name and address, please.
Jennifer Silva, 16 Summit Drive, Atkinson, New Hampshire. So my question is, if we vote no on this, does no mean no, meaning none of these projects can be done with the money that we have in the budget now? Or just this specific pot of money can't be used for these projects?
If you vote no, then there will be no non-lapsing fund created for the purpose of these projects, but that does not prevent the district from spending money in its current budget on these projects.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Brad Shaw. I live on 5 Cheney Lane in Plastown, New Hampshire. My question is with regard to the projects. It appeared that most of the projects were involved with HVAC systems. As the air handlers and the HVAC systems are being opened, I'm wondering if this will be an opportunity for you to add additional filtering or air purification to help us alleviate some of the virus issues.
Dr. Faraday, you want to address that or not?
Certainly, as you may or may not be aware, we have spent the last year with outside consulting organizations looking at our air handling units and ventilation systems throughout the district. Pre-COVID, the standards for air exchanges were different than they are post-COVID. Most certainly, when we start replacing these dated systems, we were going to bring them up to the sort of conditions that they're going to be expected to by the new standards. And additionally, as we see that we get hotter summers and earlier summers typically now, when we talk about conditioning air, it's not an air conditioner, but they do condition the air as it comes in. So I think my understanding is so that the humidity is lower so that it does have somewhat of a cooling effect. We're not looking to put air conditioning in our buildings, but there is a way to condition the air so that it's not as sticky when those students are. So the answer to your question, sir, is yes.
Okay. The reason I ask is my understanding is that they have newer technologies nowadays, since COVID has been widespread across the world, where you can add like UV lights and additional filtering and electrostatic particle cleaning of the air. I was just wondering if that was investigated while the air handlers were being taken apart.
Well, I'd have to ask our facilities director to speak to that, because I don't know if it would make sense on these older units that they would even have that capability. Even if you took them apart, you can't then add, say, an electrostatic precipitator or UV light into those units. But I'm sure that if there's a unit that we could reuse and it could bring us up to the standard and it was feasible, I don't see why they wouldn't do that. But I can't speak to that officially. I'm not an HVAC.
Okay, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Nolan Pelletier, 24 North Ave, Plastown, New Hampshire. My question is, did we pass a budget for the school this year?
Yes, we did.
So do you think it would be more fair to actually have this included in next year's budget and return the money to the taxpayers and have them actually decide as opposed to a special meeting? No further comment, thank you.
Anyone else to speak on the motion?
Keith Cronin, Sandown, C-R-O-N-Y-N. My question is, if we vote this down, are we going to have to raise taxes in the future to get these projects done that we seem to need?
Yes.
Anyone else to speak on the question?
These capital improvements that we have on this list will not go away. They will just get pushed out further, which then delays the replacement of equipment, which then typically means that we spend more on repairs and maintenance.
One more call. Anyone else to speak on the question? Third time. Anyone to speak on the question? So on the floor is a motion and a second to approve Article 1, additional state adequacy funding, non-lapsing appropriations as written. So if you're in favor of that motion to approve it as written, please raise your cards and do not lower them until the counters are finished counting. think they're done counting, so you can lower your cards. Thank you. I just want the number, that's all. Yeah, but I want you to give me. I know. Total. Yeah, I know. All right, all those opposed to the motion, please raise your cards. Counters, can you help me with that? You can lower your cards now. I think the next question is going to be a 0. Anybody abstained from voting? Anybody that didn't want to vote? So you all had an opportunity to vote. We'll announce the count in a moment. Okay, thank you. The count was 107 yeas, 28 nays, so the motion passes. And that's the only article. I thank you for your attention. I thank all of you at home watching. I thank those of you that came to help run a great meeting. And I deem this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, don't forget we're meeting in non-public now.
We got a non-public on tomorrow?
Somewhere over here.
Thanks, Bob.